channel. Today we are working on challenge 10 in chapter 14 in the book Starting Out with Java. And this programming challenge is to create a tic-tac-toe simulator. We have to generate a two-dimensional array, and after we click the play button, we have to set X and O depending on whether the number is 0 or 1. If the number is 0, we display an image that contains O, and if the number is 1, we display an image that contains X. And we also have to show whether the X player won, the O player won, or there was a tie. I already created the application. Just like the usual ways, I created the class name, Tic-Tac-Toe Simulator. It extends application, which is, extends is just another way of saying it inherits this superclass application. Then we create a grid pane to contain all the images and the button and the label. Here I created an image, two image variables to contain the O and the X image. Here I created two-dimensional image view arrays that will contain 9 image views. Then here I created a button I called play. Here I created a label, I called it result, to show which player won or if there was a tie. Here I created another two-dimensional array. This time it is an integer two-dimensional array. I call it nums. It will have 3 rows and 3 columns, just like the image views. Here is the main method to run the program. Here is the launch. In this method, I call it getGrid. Is a way for me to generate a two-dimensional integer array randomly. So I created the random class variable here. Inside these two for loops, I generated a random number and I stored it in the right position in the two-dimensional array. And here I returned the two-dimensional array. This method is not actually necessary, but it's just I created to print the array, the integer array. This method is check answers. This method is actually the one that will run the entire program. I created here a string variable that will contain the winner, the label winner. And here is Boolean variables, all wins. I started with false if the O player wins. X if the X player wins, we started false. And lastly, we added here, tie, and all of them are initiated with false state. Inside for loop, it only have 3 conditions, and here in these 2 variables are actually booleans. These are the diagonals. Tic-tac-toe, you have to check the 2 diagonals and the rows and columns at the same time. So here I created 2 variables here to hold the diagonal 1 and diagonal 2, and in this method I call it isValid, is to pass the number the number 1, number 2, and number 3 of the diagonal, the position 1, position 2, position 3 of the diagonal 1, and this method will return a Boolean state. Either the diagonal has a X player 1 or O player 1. Only these 2 states will be possible. Either the O player wins or the X player wins, or there will not be a winner. It will be false. And in this if statement, I'm saying if the diagonal one, if there is a player that won that round, we will check which number it is, which player it is. So I used here switch statements. You can use if statements here. It's not necessary to use switch statements, but I felt like switch statements it is a lot more organized and a lot more beautiful. So if the case is zero, if the number is zero, that means the O player won. So we have to set the winner string to O wins. And here, if the case is 1, then the X player won. And here is the same thing for the diagonal 2. We check which player wins, and if the O wins, we say O wins, and if X wins, we say that. And here are the rows. Here we use the is valid method as well, right? And we pass position 1, position 2, and position 3, right? And this method will return a Boolean, right? It will return either there is a winner or there will not be a winner. If there is a winner, we go inside the if statement. And here I created, I just created this temp, temp array as a testing, here, because I was trying to fix some bugs earlier. So just ignore this. So if there is a winner, in this round, we will check just like the one we did, diagonals. We check which number it is. If it is 0, then we say O wins. Here is a Boolean, variable. We will say true. We will set it to true, right? And we also set the winner to O wins. And we also check if it is 1. If the player is 1, we set to X the winner. And here, if neither of them wins, if neither O or X wins, that must be the winner is a tie, right? We didn't do in the diagonals because the diagonals will always have either zeros or ones. Either the O player will win or the X player will win, or no one will win. There will never be a tie in the diagonals. It will not be possible. So we skip that. But in the case of rows and columns, there will be a case where I will give you an example. For example, if the array, if the 2D array that is generated, if it is like this, then there will be a tie, right? Because there will be 3 zeros here, so the O player will win, and here it will be 3 ones, so the X player will win. So there will be a tie. But for the diagonals, let's say the diagonals would be here. The X player will have 1 here, it will have 1 here, and it will have 1 here at the last row. But notice that there is no way the O player will win. The other side can only be another X player, right? And the diagonal 2 here is the same thing. If we say the O player wins in the diagonal 2, there can only be one winner in the diagonals. So that's why I haven't bothered, adding, to set the winner to tie here. But just like I showed you here, in the rows and the columns, there will always be, there's a possibility that there will be a tie, right? So here, let me show you the columns as well. For example, the O player will win here, and here the X player will win here, right? So both of them win. So in that case, it will be a tie, right? Here, zeros and ones, right? So that's why I added this else statement to say winner is equal to a tie. So this entire if statement would be about rows, you know, but also we have to check the columns as well. The columns we check here in the is valid method. We check whether there is a winner, and if there is a winner, here in this if statement, we say, you know, if the number is equal to 0, that means the O player wins, and if it is equal to 1, the X player wins. And if neither of them win, if all of them, if both of them win, then that means, you know, there is a tie. So here at last here we say, if X wins and O wins, we set the tie boolean to true, and we set the winner label to tie. And lastly here we return the winner string. Here, as you can see, this method we have used a lot, and this method returns a boolean, and it will take three numbers: number 1, number 2, and number 3. And here in this expression, we are saying essentially. Let me give you an example. Let's say the randomly generated two-dimensional array is this, right? Let's say this time the method is checking for the rows, right? So the 0 row will be this. The second row will be this, and the third row will be this, right? So in this statement, we are basically saying, you know, number 1 is this, number 2 is this, and number 3 is this. So we're basically saying, is number 1 equal number 2? Is these two numbers equal? We are testing here, right? And if they are, right, we don't stop there. You also say, is number 1 is equal to number number 3 or position 3, you know, and only if all the 3 numbers are equal, only if that's the case, that this method will return true. Otherwise, there will be no winner, because you know, from the description of this programming challenge, the winner can be decided if there is 1, 1, 1, which means X wins, and if there is 0, 0, which means O wins. Or we can say 1, 1, 1, which means X wins, or 0, 0, 0, 0, which means O wins. Otherwise, there will be a tie, right? So that's how this entire method will work. Essentially, we are comparing 3 numbers at once. You know, the first 2 numbers, and if they pass, then we will compare the number 1 to number 3. And if all the 3 numbers are the same number, that means that player won, whatever that player is. So let me delete this. So here in this method start, which every GUI in the JavaFX framework has to have, we set the title Tic-Tac-Toe Simulator, and here we instantiated the grid pane here, and we called the set UI method, which will return the grid pane that will contain the images, the button, and the label. Here we added an action listener to the play button, so that when people click the play button, this code will be executed. And here, inside the play button, we will generate the two-dimensional integer array, and as a debugging purposes, I just added print a grid. This is not necessary for our requirements, but I just want to show that the two-dimensional array into the console. Then I added a system out a space. Then I created a two-dimensional not two-dimensional, two for loops. The first one will iterate through the two-dimensional array nums here, the grid. And the second one, I said it will iterate 3 times. And here, inside the inner loop, I said if the number, if the position that exact position is equal to 0, that means that is O. Then I change the image view to the image O. And if it is not, that must mean it is the X image. And here I also checked, if there is no winner. Sometimes there is no winner in that round. And if in that case, I just set the result to no winner. And lastly here, I updated the result label to whatever this method check answer will return. And if you remember, this method check answer will return to us the winner of that round, whether the O player wins, the X player wins, or there will be a tie. This method will be responsible with that. I also want to show you that I created 2 random images that I found. This would be the O image, and this would be the X image. You can even, if you don't want to use images, you can use a label, and you can set O and X instead. So let's run the program and see if the program actually works. As you can see here, O wins. And the reason O wins is because there is 3 O's here, there is another 3 O's here, and there is 3 O's in the vertical. Let's run it again. Again, O wins here. It will be here and also in the diagonal. There will be a tie here because there will be X's here and X's there. And here X wins because there will be 2 X's here, right? Another X, another tie. We have accomplished what we wanted. We completed. I hope you guys find this useful. It took me for a long time to complete this. It frustrated me. And I hope this is useful for you guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you want to see similar videos, please subscribe and give this video a like. Thank you, and I will see you next time.